In the Mood for Love is probably the first film I saw that was by an Asian person about Asian people living in this beautifully designed set with costuming and the actual spaces that they're in, done in such a fantastic way when I first saw it.
The detailing of the spaces, the colors and the textures they use, the furniture, lighting, all of that enhances the narrative of the story.
Seeing this was revolutionary for me as a designer and just as a person to see something so familiar. My name is Grace Lee-Lim and I'm an interior designer.
Wong Kar-Wai is an auteur filmmaker. He has a way of blending memorable music, distinct characters. His use of colors and textures evoke deep emotions in the audience. His filmmaking has certain themes that he likes to focus on. The main characters usually are pondering over life. There's a lot of waiting around. And this is prominently shown with the use of clocks and watches. In the Mood for Love has themes of longing and there's inner desires. And a lot of that is kind of portrayed in the tight framing of the whole movie. The sets, they're narrow, small, dimly lit rooms, bring about a sense of secrecy, a sense of intimacy between the characters. It kind of intensifies the emotional complexities of these characters. Even the audience is able to relate to it because they are putting themselves in a space that no longer exists.
The space that I designed for this dining room is extremely special because I was really given complete freedom to do whatever I wanted. I was very much drawn to it visually first, and then by the themes that Wong Kar-Wai was exploring, but in a very Asian way. I would say that the biggest challenge for this space and for any regular project is the budget. You always have a constraint when it comes to doing any kind of space, but we had to get really crafty with the selections that we chose and what we wanted to put into the room so that it didn't exceed that budget. I had 2 weeks and a budget of $5,000. I love going through a space with a client and figuring out how can we amplify whatever this room is presenting to us and how can we enhance that. In the Mood for Love, there is something that is both foreign and familiar working together at the same time. That juxtaposition is I just love it. That's what I love to do in my work. I really built my foundation on understanding how to extract the emotions and the feelings behind any form of art and design. I grew up in Southern California. I'm Korean American. I moved around quite a bit. I moved to the East Coast. I went to school in the Midwest. I've been kind of all around. And so I think that really informs the way that I design. I have a lot of different perspectives of different cultures, even within the United States. That has been a really big influence for me. When it comes to designing interiors, I was really excited by the opportunities to infuse a lot of emotion and feeling and the soul of a space. Wong Kar-Wai does that exact thing. He pulls these elements of something very foreign and familiar and brings those worlds together. There is a theme of longing and belonging that is constantly interplayed throughout the film, and that was something that I really wanted to focus on for the design of the room. I really wanted to create a space that introduces and welcomes people. For me, in any setting would be a dining room, because then you can invite people over and have community and share a meal together.
You know, if you think about it, the movie was released in 2000s, but the way Wong was able to capture 1960s Hong Kong, the time period and the setting of it all, even with the fashion, the sets, they came together in such a beautiful way that you can't really tell that it was shot like 20 years ago.
One of the places that I really knew I wanted to go to was Kim's home center. I went there as a kid growing up with my mom. Whenever we would visit LA, we would stop by there, and they just have the most random assortment of home goods. You can find things from like utensils to like rice cookers to different jars, bowls, etc. So it was another way to bring our culture back into this project and give nod to that. When you move from place to place, there is that longing of belonging in a space, the longing of finding a community and a home and just finding your soul's counterpart. Those two elements together really inform the design decision. The ideal client for this space would be someone who just isn't afraid of color. Not afraid of making bolder choices, not just with color, but also with the aesthetic and the style of any given space. In the film, they explore so much of the dining experience, and Maggie Cheung and Tony Leung's character come together so many times. I really wanted to express the feeling of community and coming together and the excitement of being in a space where you can dine and enjoy each other's company.
In the Mood for Love was originally supposed to be called The Story of Food, because there were a lot of references to food and how food brought people together. Multiple references being made to sesame syrups, to the noodle bar that the couple meets at. So you see that theme kind of running through the movie.
The film has a lot of elements of very humble lighting and a lot of humble gestures of design. A lot of the sconces on the walls are just very pared down and low-key. So instead of making it so much more ornate in this space, I wanted to bring in something that was very pared down and minimal. There was still this sense of childlike wonder in terms of Maggie Cheung getting to know Tony Leung and this like playfulness that they had. So I really wanted to incorporate something more whimsical and fun into the space that made sense. So the mobile that's hanging is actually by a Korean artist who's local to LA, and she uses Korean traditional fabric and cuts these shapes out of them in colors that are very prevalent in our culture. With this color palette, I really just felt that we needed to incorporate some green into the space, more celestial and lighthearted, but in the same tone being more moody and grounded, and that juxtaposition would work really well. I really love sourcing vintage because it already has so much soul in it and it already has life to it. You can very easily change the exterior. You can either repaint or reupholster. I would say mostly everything was vintage. I really built my foundation on understanding how to extract the emotions and the feelings behind any form of art and design. Really digging deep behind all the layers and finding the why behind everything, and then putting that into an actual tangible space. One of the first things that I sourced were the vintage dining chairs. They were in this vibrant blue. There was no other vintage chair that had such a bright, saturated color that also felt very in line with the film. A very neutral mid-century dining table would be a perfect marriage of the two different furnishings. You could have a space that feels very clean but also a little bit more ornate with the chairs. One of the art pieces that's shown is actually by Fan Ho, and he was in Hong Kong in the 1960s, and so it's an actual photo of Hong Kong from the 1960s, which I thought was really cool.
So Wong was inspired by some of the classical painters like Edward Hopper and John Singer Sargent. You are able to see the style in his framing of the movie. When you know these painters, you're able to see how it comes through.
I came across this vintage rug and it was such a steal. It fit the dimensions. It has a little bit of green in it, but it has that rust color, so it'll be perfect with the blues and the green of the wall. Was so excited to find something that was really inexpensive and just like a great find. They have these things called hangaris, and that in Korean is a stoneware vessel pot. But I kind of gave it a different life by putting flowers into it and making it an actual vase. Two of the elements that I really wanted to incorporate from the film was the clock as well as some form of smoke. And Tony Leung's character, as shown in the Mood for Love, is constantly smoking and having billows of smoke that just makes the entire film feel so ethereal and romantic. I really wanted to tie in not only the visual of the smoke, but also the cultural heritage behind these type of incense. For the clock, I really wanted to emphasize how much Wong Kar-Wai wanted to depict time and how time passes and the passage of the past and present and the future, and so I really was interested in bringing that as one of the motifs for the tablescape. I'm Grace Lee-Lim, and that's how you style this.